My government is determined to build a high-speed, high-capacity, standard-gauge railway line connecting Mombasa to Kampala and onward to Kigali.
This is the standard gauge railway in Kenya. It is the country's largest infrastructure project since independence.
This is the most important project ever taken in this region. The port of Mombasa has been growing very fast, and because of that there's a lot of traffic, both human and freight, coming from Mombasa. The country's requirements within our borders has been growing. Nairobi, cities like Kisumu. So we certainly require a lot of uptick from the port of Mombasa. And we realized that road traffic was not going to be adequate. So we decided to make sure that we do this project, make sure our roads are safe and well maintained, but also more importantly, we ensure there is integration of the four countries under the Northern Corridor: Kenya, Uganda, Southern Sudan and Rwanda. We are doing this project in about 3 phases. Phase 1 is Mombasa to Nairobi, which is 432 kilometers. Then from Nairobi we go to Naivasha, which is almost other way. And then from Naivasha we shall go to Bomet, Nyamira, Kisumu. And then from Kisumu to Malaba.
Phase 1 for the SGR is really construction of the rail from Mombasa to Nairobi. After that is really the operationalization of that, because once it's completed, we also need to have the trains start operation by the end of phase 1.
The first phase has gone very, very well. It's about 80% complete.
Civil works, we are now at 80%. Subgrade works in terms of embankments, that's almost done, about 95%. So we expect that by the end of the year we'll have completed the critical aspects of the civil works. As at today, we have laid over 280 kilometers of track.
The installation of the track, we are moving at a good speed because we are able to achieve a minimum of 4 kilometers per day. The other main activity that is ongoing now is the construction of the stations and the installation of the communication, signaling and electrification works.
For operating equipment, we've already placed the order for locomotives. We have 43 mainline locomotives. We have 8 shunting locomotives and 5 passenger locomotives. We've also ordered for 40 passenger coaches and 1,620 wagons that will make it possible for us to move both containerized cargo, bulk cargo, and other conventional cargo.
We anticipate that the laying of the track will be completed by end of this year. And then thereafter we do the testing between December and June next year.
There are 33 stations to be built from Nairobi to Mombasa, with Nairobi and Mombasa being the major stations. And then there are 7 intermediate stations for passenger services. And then there will be 23 passing stations, and then 1 port station at the marshalling yard in Mombasa.
Passing stations makes it possible for trains to pass each other at those loops, and therefore you can run as many as 24 trains on that network at the same time, in both directions.
We anticipate that by the end of this year, all the passing stations will be complete 100%, all the intermediate stations will be complete 100%. The terminal stations, the 2 of them, Mombasa and Nairobi, they are quite massive in size compared to the other stations. So we foresee them being complete around February, latest March 2017.
Before we started the project, we went down with the KWS technical officers who identified the elephant corridors, for example. And we incorporated this in the design. So within the Savo, all the animal corridors were built bridges, enough for even a giraffe to pass without bending. And then in terms of mitigation measures, there are certain environmental activities that have been made while working in the Kembaks, and that you cannot introduce a foreign material. If you want to plant grass, you plant grass from the Savo. because it can become invasive and cause destruction and disrupt the ecology of the area.
For the railway to be maintained to international standards, it is to ensure that we have the right operator, who is also tasked with providing the right maintenance.
We have discussed with other countries who are part of the summit, and it's been agreed that the contractor will initially operate the railway for about 5 years. The reason being, you've seen all these investments about the bridges. You like the person who has done them to test them, to make sure we don't have a train flipping because the contractor did a short job. So it ensures accountability, at least as we build capacity for our people.
There was a deliberate effort to ensure that there is technology transfer, that there is also training, so that by the end of the project, we have professionals of diverse field.
We have already, working with the contractor, set up training facilities at RTI, Railway Training Institute. There's already about 107 students being trained on railway operations and management. We have already sent to China, Beijing Jiatong University, 25 students who will be studying railway engineering and operations. And before the year goes, we'll be sending another 35 students to undertake similar studies, and they will be ready within 4 to 5 years to come back and participate in nation building.
I think there is economic value in the short term as well as in the long term. In the short term, there is business that these suppliers and business people are able to get via the local content. About 48 billion that has been paid to both the local suppliers as well as, of course, the local content. Up to 30,000 people have been employed by the project.
For the freight, which is very important because this is what we're going to have immediate impact in terms of economic development, the capacity is about 22 million tons every year. And we anticipate that we shall be able to meet that target very quickly. In terms of passenger, we shall be starting with about 3,000 passengers every day. There will be like 3 trains coming to Nairobi, which is more than, I think, 15 buses. And that capacity, of course, will grow up as people get used to it.
One of the key impacts will be in terms of lowering the costs of goods. And as an example, currently we are talking of the cost of transporting on the Northern Corridor being about 20 cents per kilometer per ton. And this will be reduced by 60% to about 0.083 cents per kilometer per ton. The decongestion on the roads, which will be another benefit, and the speed at which the containers and goods are able to move from the coast to the hinterland.
These trucks you see on the road have been taking a full day from Nairobi to Mombasa. Now they'll be taking between 6 and 8 hours. In terms of passenger, it will be about 4 hours, which is almost the same time which you go from the airport, waiting at the airport, taking the flight. So people, in fact, will stop flying. Initially, the target was December 2017, but we have worked closely with the contractor. We have pushed them, we have put KRC under pressure, and they have committed that it will be completed by 1st of June. So we shall be riding the train from Mombasa, I think, South Station on the 1st of June 2017 to Nairobi.
We are operating under the East African Railway Master Plan. We are opening up a region. We are opening up a market of 150 million people. So the development that we've seen from Tanzania side, I think, is welcome. If we connect, we ensure that the seamless interconnectivity that we're looking at is achieved.
The project in itself needs to be seen as a huge infrastructure initiative that opens up the country such that its economic value is beyond just the revenue that can be attributed from the rail. It opens up the country, makes transport a lot easier, and could potentially open up economic zones if well structured through the county engagements.
Kenyans have been waiting for this project. Let me assure them this is money very well spent, and we are setting the pace in terms of regional development because the other countries, they are coming here to see how we have done this project. It will help with economic integration of this region. And because the biggest beneficiary is us, because it's coming from Mombasa, as a result of this project, Mombasa Port becomes world-class. And so it's good for us to make sure we set the pace, but also we leave a good benchmark in terms of completion of this project.
Yastahili tuanze kufikiria ya kwamba how can we make it more affordable for us to be able to build industrial parks that will create jobs for our young people. Because that's at the end of the day why we are building this railway line. To help create employment, to help grow our GDP, to help grow our economy overall.